Hi, this is Representative Al Baldessaro, and this is Who's Looking Out for You. Once again, with my great host, Representative Jeanine from Merrimack. Welcome.
Hey, Al. It's been what?
Yeah, what?
Been a while.
Few
Five
minutes,
five minutes maybe.
Most people
Yeah.
don't realize we normally tape a couple of shows in a day. And
One time we did 3.
were you wearing that sweater the last show, or did you?
No, I wear one outfit and then I just changed the top and hopefully
See, I
nobody
always
notices.
wear, for 2 shows in a row, the same shows, same clothes and everything. And we already discussed the last show. How many miles again you're running?
1,193 is the year to date, same as 5 minutes ago.
I wonder if our next guest even comes close to that.
I bet he runs.
I heard he was in the Air Force and then
the
the
Army, airborne.
served in airborne.
He might come out
did
of
he
the
fly
sky
in?
and
I heard
fly
he served.
faster.
Yeah, in Afghanistan. He'll probably talk to us about this. What a wonderful program.
Right, and he's one of our colleagues.
Yeah,
he's a
one of
state
our
representative currently
who didn't run again because he's working with this great program.
to help the veterans.
You want to introduce him? You want me to?
Representative David Binford. Welcome.
David, soldier, welcome to Londonderry.
Nice to see you.
Awesome.
Good afternoon.
You know, Dave, I'm very impressed with this program here, and maybe you can talk a little bit about
Operation Restored Warrior.
You know,
So, just my experience with Operation
first of all,
Restored
before
Warrior.
you get into it, how did you get into this?
That's where I was going to go with that.
Okay, go
because
ahead.
my
Go ahead.
introduction
I'll
to that.
shut up.
That's no worries, no worries. So my introduction with that was from my own experience after coming back from Afghanistan, and just dealing with the things that we dealt with over there, and then having to reintegrate into the civilian sector. I was extremely suicidal. I came very close to just ending my life one evening on my way home. I worked for myself after I got out. I just didn't fit in the corporate world anymore. My mindset was totally different, and I came very close to doing that. And so I ended up checking myself into the VA hospital down in Nashville, and spent 5 days in their treatment program at Alvin York VA Hospital in Murfreesboro. And while I was in there, I wasn't looking for medications. I wasn't looking to be prescribed all kinds of different pills. I was looking for a way that I could rest, so that I could get some sleep, so that my mind could be refreshed. And I was looking for someone to help me find that camaraderie aspect that we, as being soldiers, that we miss after getting out. I went through just a little bit of my own healing process, and then I was introduced to Operation Restored Warrior. My wife reached out to my Command Sergeant Major's wife at the time, or still his wife, and they talked to her about this program. And it is a 5-day intensive program that takes you out of your home element, all the stress and everything that goes on in your home element, and you go to either Colorado or to South Lake Tahoe. Not sure if we're going to be putting one on the East Coast. There used to be one on the East Coast at one time, but so you 5 days away from home, where you're able to just deal with the key root issues of PTSD, post-traumatic stress, and then things that go along with being in combat. And that's how I was introduced to it. I went through the program myself back in late February of 2013, and it totally turned my life around.
Now, I understand you were in Helmand, Providence with the 8 Marines.
Actually, 2 8 Marines were in Hillman.
Yeah.
I was with 101st, no slack,
Yeah.
2nd Battalion, 327th Infantry Regiment. We were in Kunar Province, right on the Pakistan
Right.
border.
Now, did you lose
You
fellow
must have.
So
Yeah.
that entire tour, that 1-year tour, we lost 18.
18? Wow, God bless.
The hardest one to take was roughly 2 weeks before coming home. We lost 6 guys.
6 guys, yeah.
Were you airborne? Your hat says airborne?
Yes.
82nd Airborne?
No, 101st.
Oh,
101st.
101st.
Yep.
Okay.
What do they call
My
them? The
nephew was
Screaming
82nd.
Eagles?
Screaming Eagles.
Oh, the portion of the highway is named
Yeah.
after the screen.
I
I was a
co-
co-sponsor for that.
Yep, I was a co-sponsor
Fred Rice
also.
was the prime sponsor.
Right. And they twisted my arm there to do it as a Marine first sergeant. So I said, yeah, we're used to taking care of the Army. But anyways, let's get into how this rescue, I'm looking at, there's 3 stages here. Rescue, rebuild, and restore. I'm very interested. There's a lot of veterans in town here.
In New Hampshire. There's a lot of
almost 130,000 veterans throughout the state.
Right.
So let's talk about
But I think
this.
we have the 4th largest veteran population
Right,
out of the
yes.
U.S.
And we don't have a VA hospital.
Yeah, and there's
don't
no
even have a
full-time
full
Only one,
service.
well, Alaska doesn't either, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only
We have
one
an
in the
urgent care center and specialized
Right.
clinics.
Right.
But yeah, let's go and
So the rescue portion of that is when a veteran actually comes somewhat to their senses, they realize they need further help than what they've been
now,
able
what do
to
you mean
get.
when they come to their senses?
So we all have a portion of our own being where we realize that this just isn't working. I need to do something different. You know, we all get to a place in our lives where something has to change. Otherwise, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. That's where I was back in 2013. Something needed to change. I was on multiple prescription medications prescribed to me by the VA. I was not abusing them. I was taking them as prescribed. But all those medications that I was on really messed with my emotional state and even my physical state. My wife basically said I was a zombie. I was home, but the lights weren't on. So that was my own experience. And there are several vets that deal with that. I talk to vets all the time that they're tired of having medications prescribed to them and they want an alternative method to, number one, deal with the physical issues that they have, but number two, the emotional and even the spiritual issues. So that rescue, the portion of the Restore Warriors, that rescue portion is the veteran has to understand that they have to recognize that they need help. Mm-hmm. Because if they don't recognize they need help, then there's nothing can be done for them.
Was it you that recognized, or was it your wife that
My
pushed
wife,
you to recognize?
I knew that I needed help, but my wife kind of pushed the issue a little bit. And I love my wife dearly, and we have five children. And I knew that the state of mind that I was in, I was not where I needed to be to be the best I could for them. Mm-hmm. And so I was very reluctant. I'm not going to lie to you. I was reluctant to go to this program, partly because my command sergeant major, who had retired about the same time I had ETS'd, or ETS is when my enlistment ended.
Service.
Oh, okay. Yeah. End of service.
Yes. So he retired about the same time that I ETS'd, and he was a part of this program. And he was one of the facilitators, and I was really reluctant. I'm like, I really don't want to go to this and go through this process with my sergeant major. I'm just not looking forward to that at all. So I was reluctant, but at the same time, I knew I needed to do something because the path that I was on was getting worse. And
Did it affect you? Because I know studies I read. Did it, you know what I mean, with Vietnam veterans and other affecting the children and the wives? Did you have issues there also where
Absolutely.
they were? You know?
Absolutely.
Okay, I didn't mean to cut out.
No worries. Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely did. And you know, I'm not going to say every veteran deals with it, but a lot of veterans deal with the traumatic stress.
Death is a tough.
That after especially coming back from war, and not just veterans, first responders deal with that as well. Our program, we allow for first responders to come in. So I went through that program after realizing that I needed to do something. And the other thing the program asks is they ask the veteran to have some skin in the game. Now, we're not asking if there's some issues financially that you just can't come up with a plane ticket to get out to the program and go through the program, then we will do whatever we can to get you taken care of using outside sources to do that. But the veteran has to be willing to go through a little bit to get out to the program. So that rescue portion is partly the vet has to recognize it, and then I'm gonna just for note purposes.
The rebuild part.
The rebuild part.
Yeah,
that is right now we have the 5-day program where you come in, and the first day is the facilitators, and I became a facilitator this past June. So the first day really is the facilitators sharing information and sharing stories and sharing things that we have gone through personally, and
it's
how
vet to vet.
So it's
vet to
like
vet.
AA, but we did a show with a guy from the AA.
I have never been through AA program, so I can't speak to is it like AA. Right. There are probably some similarities in there, but it's, in my opinion, from what I've heard from people that have been through AA and from people who've been through the Al-Anon portion of AA, there are some similarities in there, but it's not the same. We're dealing with building the trust so that the person that comes for the healing will trust us, because we're gonna delve into some areas that most people don't want to talk about.
So you're identifying the breaking points.
Exactly right.
Right.
Identifying the breaking points, that's part of that rebuild process. We identify the breaking points, and then once we identify those, then we begin the restoration process, and we go into
Before you get
the
into
actual
the restore
okay.
part of it, with the restoration. Explain. I'm reading right here. It says Jesus showed up.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
So I'll speak from my own experience.
Right.
So I grew up in Texas, and
What part?
that's in actually north central Texas, just south of Dallas.
All right. I lived in San Angelo for a couple of
Okay,
years.
so I'm very familiar where San Angelo is.
Yeah.
So my family is all from East Texas, just west of Longview.
He's a
Tar-
cow-
My brother
cowboy.
lived in Tyler.
They were just north of Tyler, is
Okay.
where they
I
were
think
from.
he's a cowboy.
Yeah.
I think. Okay.
Yep, I did grow up
Yeah.
that way. I got my mom's got pictures somewhere of me doing rodeo stuff.
Yeah.
So we go through. When I went through the program, I had grown up being familiar with church, but church is not enough. It's about a relationship with Jesus Christ. That's really what it's about. We don't force anything on any of the guys that participate. Any of the men, women, and we don't have a women's program just yet, but we're working on that. But anyone that comes, we're not forcing anything on anyone. We're presenting information, and then we're allowing them to take that in and apply it to their lives as they see. And so when I went through the program, I had already come back to that relationship portion. So it actually just built upon that. There was a Marine Force Recon who denied anything to do with God, anything to do with Jesus. As a matter of fact,
I know people like that.
the day or two before actually being at the program, he got in a fight with his girlfriend. He came in early and they went to Vail and went skiing. He got in a fight with his girlfriend. He ended up arrested. Our guys, our facilitators, went and picked him up. The police department knew of our program.
Right.
They understood what he was fixing to go to. They released him to the facilitators. At the end of that program, at the end of the rescue, the rebuild, and the restore and the rebuild, in the end of that, he realized that there's something bigger than he is. That it was actually Jesus that saved him through everything that he'd gone through in his life. And it was Jesus that brought him to the place where he could have healing. And like I said, we don't force any of this on anyone. It's information that's given.
So you said no one forces it on you, because I'm just thinking of someone else that I know about. That one friend will talk about Jesus, and the more he does, the more he pushes this other guy away. It's like some people, they don't want to hear it.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And there was a time in my life I didn't want to hear that either.
So many of them that go to this program basically came in with hopelessness and suicide tendencies and everything else going through their brains. A lot of them on these psychopathic drugs that the VA used to give out like candy.
We don't have that information, but I would gather probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm one of them. I was on I have a gallon-sized baggie, Ziploc baggie of medications that I was on all at one time from the VA.
Well, I take about 8 pills a day myself, but not for, I refuse the oxycodone.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because they give it away like candy. I had tramadol and other stuff for my spine.
We have
But
gentlemen that have come through the program that have been relying upon medical marijuana. They've relied upon different pain meds just to get them through physically. Some of them probably had a little bit of an issue with that sort of thing. But if they weren't an addict, we bring them into the program. That's the only thing. If there is a medical condition that they have to have addressed, we cannot bring them into the program. That has to be addressed first. They have to be stable in that aspect. We have a licensed counselor that oversees the program, but it's vet to vet.
it's 5 days, and that works. 5 days.
It works.
Oh, And I have a question.
Sure.
So people who go through AA, I'm just trying to, because that's the closest thing I can compare it to. Forever, they call themselves an alcoholic. Always, even if they never drink again, they still call themselves an alcoholic. So, after going through this program, do you still feel like you're healing and will always be healing, or are you healed?
So I in a lot of us in the program, and a lot of us facilitators in the program, we liken it to peeling an onion. If you peel an onion, you're peeling
Thanks.
a layer at a
Just
time.
Just thinking
Right.
about the onion. Sorry.
I don't think you ever get healed from this. I think you know how to control it.
You
is the
you
key.
there are
know?
parts of healing. There is healing that takes place. There are things that take place as you go through the process that are healed. And yeah, you might think about it, but it doesn't hit you like you're running to a brick wall like before. But it is. It's like peeling away in parts. Peeling away the skin of an onion.
Right.
It's layer after layer after layer. And I've gone through. I went through 2 different. I wasn't smart enough to make it the first time. I like to tease guys that I went through this facilitator training the first time, and I obviously didn't catch on then either. So I had my own experience with Operation Restore Warrior for my own personal healing. Then I went through the actual training portion, which is the facilitator portion, and then I went back again, and I was finally selected. But even going through both those times, even though it wasn't focused on me personally, I still received more healing, more insight, more understanding into what I've gone through in my life. Because most people who have post-traumatic stress that have been in the military and have been in combat, that combat situation typically has triggered something that happened in their past.
Interesting.
Typically.
Right.
I mean, there's no set rule that happens every time, but most of the time, that's what's happened. And so, going through the healing process, we are able to go back into the childhood, and we are able to help them identify some of those post-traumatic stress keys that are there, those elements that are there, and then help them get past that.
Now, I understand this program started in 2008.
Yes, this is our 10th year anniversary this year.
10th year, and you're bringing veterans from all branches. And
All
So
branches.
Are you going to be doing
Police
this
and
full
fire.
time?
I will be doing this. I'm on the schedule roughly 6 to 8 months a year, and if they need it. We're actually working on a 2-day program. They will be doing the initial 2-day program at the end of this month, where they're going to be working with veterans that are less, what's the right word I'm looking for, less intensive.
Right.
So there are veterans that did not go to combat,
Right.
but they served, that they are having trouble dealing with integrating in the civilian world. Those are the ones that we're focusing on for the 2-day program. It's not as intensive as a 5-day program.
What is the bracelet, the silver bracelet
This
next
one?
to the Fitbit? Yeah.
This is a memorial bracelet for my
yes,
unit.
yeah.
It's the 18 that we lost during the deployment.
All the names are on there.
All the names and the
are
dates.
on there. I have a POW bracelet for Colonel Charles E. Shelton. He was shot down over Laos in 1965, and I knew his family. But and then the ring is that.
So that ring, I'll let you look at that. This is the Band of Brothers. So once
And,
a
and that's what's on
that's
here.
it is.
on
It's
here.
on the brochure
So
there.
people can see that there.
So that
Yeah.
that ring is once you've
It's a
gone
cross.
through the program.
Oh, I like that cross.
It's actually a cross, but it's a sword.
Right.
Oh, I see
Yep.
that.
So once you go through the program, excuse me, and you affirm that you are ready to move forward,
That's nice.
they present you with the ring, and the ring initially goes on where the sword is actually facing you. So initially it goes on this way, so the sword is facing you. Once you decide that you are ready to be an example to others, to other veterans, to your family, to people you associate with, you then take it and you turn it the other way around as a symbol of you're going to live out your faith. Not that you're going to preach hellfire and brimstone, not that you're going to beat people over the head with a Bible,
Yeah,
but you're
'cause
just
it
going
pushes
to
them
live.
away.
You're just going to live your life as an example. That's it.
And then there's a name for that bracelet.
This?
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually my son made this bracelet for me. I don't
Start
remember.
with a P. Doesn't
That's a
start with
parachute.
It is,
Okay.
it's a paracord
Parachute,
bracelet.
yeah.
Paracord. That's it. I couldn't
Right.
think of it. I saw it. I
In
have,
fact, while you were talking, I was trying to look up my phone. Sean Morrison just had posted something, and I posted it for
he's
him.
another colleague.
22 a day.
And, yeah, about the 22 military veterans a day that choose to, commit
I
suicide.
reposted that and Al
And-
did too.
And I actually wanted this phone number on this show too, for the crisis line,
Sure.
which is the 1-800-273-8255, and that's the crisis line. Because my concerns are with a program like this here, which I think is a great idea, is let's say there's a reenactment within this system. Are they able to go through it again, or is there a mentor assigned?
So what we've done with the program is you have the program that you go through initially, and then what we set up is we set up what we call FOB leaders, forward operating base leaders. So we have someone who's for the New England area, and if you're having issues, you can reach out to them. You can reach out to any alumni that has gone through the program. We have a Facebook page for alumni, so you can go as an alumni. You can go to the Facebook page and reach out. You can contact me. As a matter of fact, I had a chiropractor visit this morning, and I met an elderly couple there, Mr. and Mrs. Stark, and she told me about her grandson, who just came back not too long ago, and he was having some trouble, and so I hollered over to the chiropractor, said, listen, if she comes in and tells you that she needs my information because her grandson's having issues, give it to her.
I have 3 sons in the military, so yeah, this worries me when you hear about how many have trouble when they get out of the service.
The biggest thing that I found myself, and this is something, and I don't want to take the focus off Operation Store Warrior, because that's why I'm here. But in the Upper Valley area, I have been working on paperwork to have an actual veterans group, so that even if they haven't gone through this program, they can still reach out to someone.
But aren't you looking, hoping eventually down the road to put this program in place in New Hampshire?
Yes.
And maybe find sponsors, somebody that can help put it together?
That's what we're wanting to do. We're wanting to at least run the 2-day programs in the area as a regional program.
Right.
And then if there are folks that need the more intensive part of the program, then we want to be able to hook them up
And
with it.
how is it funded? Did we discuss
It's
that?
all by private donations. We're not part of the VA. We're not part of DOD. And we keep it that way because, especially in the DOD, if you are active duty, you can actually take leave and come to our program and go through our program and get healing and go right back into
Right.
active duty.
And see, that's my concern with the police and fire, because sometimes, like the military, when they find out you got PTSD, you're blackballed.
Exactly right.
Right.
And next thing you know, they're trying to push you out of the
Right.
military.
Yes.
And I don't want to see that happen to the police or the fire.
Right.
So they can go very quiet and harmlessly.
Yes.
And get into the program, and without anyone knowing, they're protected.
Correct.
Is this you? That's not you?
That's not me.
Okay. I thought the
I'd like
big
to say it
beard.
was, but it's
Navy
not.
SEAL
Nice
in that
muscles. I
picture.
just knew it.
Is that a Navy SEAL in that picture?
Probably.
Yeah, because they're the only ones in the Army Special Forces.
Yeah, probably.
You know, that get the beards and
Yeah,
stuff.
they made us shake.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the key here, because like they fought that PTSD
Right.
TBI study committee for police, and you remember I was against it.
Yep.
Because I seen in the military, Vietnam veterans
Yep.
and others get blackballed.
Yes.
And then try to be forced out once they find out. And I foresee that happen to our police and,
And
fire.
that's a very good
You know?
scenario. That
Yeah.
happens all the time.
Are you familiar with the song "Still in Saigon"?
I believe I've heard that. Yeah.
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 It's on my playlist.
So now, what do you, as a facilitator, what's your involvement now as a
So as a
facilitator?
facilitator, as soon as we have that 2-day program ramp up, then I'll be coordinating that in this area, probably with another facilitator. And then we also have our alumni, especially the forward operating base leaders, who are able to be involved in that 2-day program as well and help facilitate it. By a facilitator, what we're doing is we're going through and we're presenting the information that we have, and we're relating to each individual themselves. It's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all thing. I mean, it is, but we tailor it to each individual as they come through, because everyone has their own things that they're dealing with, and so we're able to get on the personal level with them, and that's where building that trust comes
Right.
in.
You know, one of the things I'm reading here at the back here, it says, to preach good news to the poor, to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom to the captives, and to release from darkness the prisoners, Isaiah 61:1.
Yep.
What do they mean by that? How does that fit into this program?
So, like I said, we don't force anything on anyone. We present the information so that they can take that in themselves. But when you begin, when I first went through, I was very skeptical. I was reluctant. But as I began to notice the change in others around me, I'm like, there's something to this. Because they, like I said, they didn't beat anybody over the head with a Bible to get them to make a confession to do anything.
Well, that song I'd mentioned, Still in Saigon, just listen to it because I think it applies even today because he gets off the plane from Frisco and goes to Vietnam. He comes back and 1 minute he'll kneel down and pray, the next he stands and curse.
Yeah.
Little brother calls him a killer, daddy calls him a vet, and he doesn't know who he is anymore, but he knew who he was when he was in Saigon, and he's, in his mind, he's still in Saigon.
Yes.
So.
And there's many vets
Right.
coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan that are the same.
Well, right, you know, my nephew, he was 82nd Airborne. Somebody dropped a tray of dishes and he jumped.
Yeah.
There's something very important that I want you to get out right now to everyone that's watching this here. If you're a mom, a dad, a brother, sister that's dealing with a veteran, male, female that came home, or even police, fire,
Sure.
what do you recommend that family member to do? Look right in, just tell.
So the first thing is, you're not going to be able to preach to them. You're not going to be able to force them to do anything. You're going to have to love them. You're going to have to be by their side through thick and thin and let them know. And they have to be able to see that. They have to trust you. So when we're deployed, or even if you're a firefighter or an EMT or a police officer, when you're in the thick of something, you got to trust the person next to you, right? So when we're deployed, we have to trust the person next to us, and that's what your veteran, that's what your first responder, police officer, firefighter, that's what they need to sense from you as a family member. No judgment, but we're here for you. Let's figure out a way to get through this.
That's awesome. And if there's any questions or concerns that people have, to get in touch with Operation Restored Warrior, which is basically reaching warriors, restoring their hearts. How do they get in touch with you once again? And,
So I'm willing to
or the
give my
program?
personal phone number out for this. So my personal phone number it's a Dallas area code for cell phone, but it's 972-351-3389. Sorry, I don't call myself very often.
Oh, okay. That's no problem. We'll make sure it's put
351-3389.
up on the screen anyways when we're done. I mean, I tell you, I come across a lot of veterans with many issues throughout the years.
And we have a contact sheet, and I'll make sure that it's given to the producer so the producer can actually have access to the contact sheet, and it actually has the contact information for our leadership team that we have.
Well, David, I want to thank you very much. We're going to miss you at the State House.
we will.
You know, that's for sure there. And Jeanine, this was a great show here. I think very informative. And I think the people are going to really get a lot out of it because we have a lot of veterans here in the state of New Hampshire. Once again, this is Who's Looking Out for You. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.